Okay, I am recording this on my laptop, which means that this is not going to be the greatest quality, but that's okay. I was originally going to turn this assignment in as just the game, but I realized that not everyone plays platformers or video games very often, so I figured I should probably just do a video and then do the playthrough. That way you can get the information, but I will still link the game in case people want to play. So this is my presentation for my final in my natural disasters class. It's a platformer called Skateboard Duck, and I will be talking about three main hazards in the city of Los Angeles, and just kind of looking at what has been done to prevent them and what still needs to be done, and then I'll be providing an example of three natural disasters that kind of help move my story along. So, this game was made on Scratch. It's not my best work. It wasn't in a rush per se, but I have done better. Wow. Okay, those comments aren't very nice. We don't have to look at that. Cool. Let me just start it up. Alrighty. So yeah, arrow keys to move. I have a reset button up here, just in case. Sometimes I've noticed that this thing gets stuck, and I have to restart. So here we go. Alright. So, Los Angeles' three main natural hazards. 1. Wildfires. Los Angeles is prone to wildfires because of how dry the Mediterranean climate is, droughts, and strong winds that come up from Santa Ana. 2. Earthquakes. These happen often in Los Angeles due to the city being located near several active fault systems, like the San Andreas Fault. California, too, is along the edge of the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, where there is constant seismic activity. 3. Flooding. Los Angeles has a big flooding hazard because the city can get very intense rainstorms, especially after fires burn off a lot of the vegetation from the hills, which increases the risk of mass wasting and runoff. Urban development also increases flash flooding, since large paved areas stop the water from soaking into the ground. Okay, and we just get to... Whee! Okay. In January 2025, Los Angeles experienced one of the most destructive fires in the city's history. Multiple big fires, like the Palisades and Eaton Fire, were pushed by Santa Ana winds, dry vegetation from the ongoing drought, and just how rapidly fire spreads in wildland urban areas. Altogether, the fire caused dozens of fatalities and forced over 100,000 residents to evacuate, leaving massive property damage across Los Angeles County. The vast severity of this fire shows just how fast they can escalate in Southern California, especially when the dry conditions mix with winds and fuels. Fuels like dry grass or like just wood, kind of. It's California, you know. Peak. Okay. Now we just have to. Oh, for demonstration, here's what happens if you touch the traffic cone. Yeah, just kind of. You get restarted. Alright. Wildfire prevention. After the 2025 Los Angeles fires, California state and officials made several recovery and prevention strategies to try and lower the risk of something like this happening again. A main goal was rebuilding in a way that made the city more resistant to fires. Governor Gavin Newsom gave orders to speed up rebuilding, but also required that more fire-resistant materials were used, as well as upgrading standards in construction and utilities. Okay. Alright. You know, I made this game, you'd think I'd be able to beat it. I'm gonna cheat here. Alright. Wildfire improvement. Though many prevention efforts have taken place, there are still a few gaps that keep the risk of fire in Los Angeles very high. One issue is that safety measures aren't always equally consistent in every neighborhood, especially in homes on the hillside where vegetation surrounds them and spreads fire more quickly. Regular upkeep could slow down many approaching fires. Another issue is in utility infrastructure. Since some power lines and electrical equipment are still above ground, they can spark fires during extreme windstorms. So, expanding underground electrical works and improving grid safety would help a lot. There we go. That one's easy. Okay. One of the worst earthquakes. One of the worst earthquakes that Los Angeles has ever experienced was the 1994 Northridge earthquake, which had a magnitude of 6.7 and was located in the San Fernando Valley early in the morning. This led to collapsed freeways, buildings, and other extreme property damage. The disaster caused around 60 fatalities, injured thousands, and destroyed the homes of tens of thousands of residents. It is still considered as one of the most devastating disasters in U.S. history. Alright, I can do it. Oh, okay, I kind of phased through that a little. Okay. Earthquake prevention. After the Northridge earthquake, Los Angeles and California made major improvements to earthquake safety. One of the biggest changes was strengthening building codes, especially for steel frame buildings and older structures that weren't built to handle strong shaking. The city also started requiring or encouraging seismic retrofitting, especially for vulnerable, soft-story apartment buildings with open parking on the ground floor. These changes help reduce collapse risk in the future earthquakes by improving how buildings absorb shaking. FEMA and engineering agencies have also developed new standards for repairing and designing earthquake-resistant structures. I don't like FEMA. See, here's what I mean. It gets stuck. So then, if I just click the reset button, it fixes itself. Haha. Instead of fixing the bug, I add a solution. Okay. Earthquake improvement. So even with these improvements, experts point out that many older buildings in Los Angeles still haven't fully been retrofitted, especially the non-ductile concrete buildings and some older apartment complexes. That's a direct quote from one of the articles I read. I will put all of that in the description. These buildings are still very vulnerable in a major earthquake. Another issue is that retrofit programs are expensive and slow, so progress hasn't been completed everywhere. On top of that, transportation systems, utilities, and lifeline infrastructure like water and gas lines are still at risk of major damage during a large earthquake. Experts also say that California hasn't eliminated earthquake risk, and a future big one scenario could still cause widespread destruction, meaning continued upgrades and preparedness are still necessary. Alright. All levels of possible. Yeah, I know. There we go. Oh boy, I love this one. Flooding. One of the most destructive floods in Los Angeles history happened in 1938 when a series of powerful winter storms dropped massive rainfall across Southern California. The heavy rain caused severe flooding in rivers like the Los Angeles River and the San Gabriel River. Entire neighborhoods were flooded, bridges were destroyed, and transportation systems were heavily damaged. Over 100 people died, and there was a widespread destruction across Los Angeles County. This flood became a turning point because it showed how dangerous uncontrolled rivers could be in a highly developed urban area. And if you think about it, like, where is all that water supposed to go? It's such a big city, and it can't soak in anywhere because of all the pavement. Reset again. Alright, this one. Come on. Haha. Alright. Flood prevention. After the 1938 flood, major flood control projects were built across Los Angeles County, even all those years ago. That's crazy. The biggest change was channelizing the Los Angeles River and turning parts of it into a concrete channel so that the stormwater could be moved quickly out into the ocean and reduce flooding in neighborhoods. Pretty good. There's also a system of dams, reservoirs, and storm drains that were built to manage heavy rainfall and reduce flood risk. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and local agencies played a major role in designing and maintaining this system, which is still used today. is a however, though. There's always a however. Ah! Cool. We're gonna sit here for a second. Alright, flooding improvement. Los Angeles County still needs to continue strengthening hazard protection efforts, meaning long-term actions that reduce disaster risk before events happen. The country is working on updating its all hazards mitigation plan, but the main ongoing need is to reduce vulnerability to hazards like earthquakes, wildfires, floods, and extreme heat through stronger planning and infrastructure movements. I already said that. More specifically, hazard prevention focus on making infrastructure and communities more resilient, which includes better coordination between agencies and adapting to climate change. Continued planning is needed to reduce future damage to lives, property, and critical systems, especially in high-risk areas across the county. All right. Oh, I have to time that just right. All right, here's some additional improvement. I think that kind of applies to all of the natural disasters that I've meant today. I think that Los Angeles would also benefit from just better evacuation routes in general. During wildfires, traffic can become a huge problem when lots of people are trying to leave at the same time, especially in hillside neighborhoods with limited roads. Better road access and evacuation planning would help people get out faster and more safely. I'm not really suggesting like citywide drills because that would be really inconvenient, but it would be nice to have general education on how to better protect yourself. The same idea applies to earthquakes and floods. If roads are damaged or certain areas become dangerous, having multiple escape routes can help people reach safety more easily. Overall, improving evacuation routes would make it easier for residents and emergency responders to react quickly during disasters and could help save lives. All right. Oh, okay. Here we go. There we go. Okay, here is the last slide. Higher and lower risk areas. So not every part of Los Angeles faces the same level of risk. For wildfires, areas near hills and open vegetation such as Malibu, Pacific Palisades, and the Hollywood Hills face a much higher risk because fires can spread quickly through dry brush. More urbanized areas like downtown Los Angeles generally have a lower wildfire risk because there is less vegetation to burn. For earthquakes, areas built on soft sediments or in node flood zones can have stronger shaking than areas built on solid bedrock. For flooding, neighborhoods near rivers, flood channels, and recent wildfire burn scars, that's a fancy word I looked up, face a higher risk than elevated areas outside flood zones. Cool. And now I think there's still another level, but there's no more of those little slides. Whee! This one's fun. Yeah, I think it just says, yep. So now you just kind of have to complete the level for fun. And again, you can play this game without looking at the info boxes. It's fine. Ta-da! Alright. This is the end. I still have something else I'd like to say really quick. Risk in Los Angeles is not determined by only the hazard itself, but also by exposure and vulnerability. So lower income residents may live in older buildings or cheaper buildings, like cheaply made buildings, that are more vulnerable to earthquake damage. While some communities have fewer resources available for evacuation, disaster preparation, and recovery. People experiencing homelessness are also very vulnerable because they don't have a home, they don't have transportation, they don't have access to emergency information, like they may not be able to call 911. Los Angeles has nearly 4 million residents within the city and more than 12 million in the greater metropolitan area, which makes disasters much more difficult to imagine because evacuation routes are obviously more crowded and emergency services become overwhelmed and recovery efforts take a lot longer. So to help respond to disasters, I think Los Angeles uses emergency alert systems with cell phones, television, radio, and something called Notify LA, which I'm assuming, I don't think it's an app. It might be an app, but it is some sort of emergency distribution system. Well, those are all digital, so again, homeless people may not have access to that. But there are evacuation routes and temporary shelters that can be, activated when they're needed. Emergency responders also work to restore power, communications, and food supplies, and access to roads and utilities to, as quickly as possible. Long-term recovery focuses more on rebuilding everything that was destroyed and expanding the seismic retrofitting programs, and again, hopefully using more fire, earthquake, I guess flooding resistant construction materials. Many organizations support these efforts, including FEMA. Well, at least they're supposed to. Aren't you, FEMA? Yeah. Which provides disaster assistance and recovery funding. If only. There's Cal OES, which coordinates statewide emergency response, and of course the Los Angeles Fire Department, which, does all the dirty work. And the American Red Cross, which provides emergency shelters, food, water, and other support services to affected residents. In conclusion, Los Angeles does have a lot of natural hazards that can occur often. These hazards are caused by the city's climate, geography, and tectonic setting. I like that. And they have serious impacts on the people, property, and infrastructure. So while Los Angeles has made a lot of significant improvements and are better at preparing to disasters, or preparing for disasters, there's still some things that need to be done. And understanding where hazards are most likely to occur, who is most vulnerable, and how the city can better prepare helps create a safer and more resilient community for everyone who lives here. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I really hope that the audio was not so terrible you could not understand it. Okay, bye.